Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a book review on Chosen Ones by Veronica Roth. Chosen Ones by Veronica Roth follows a group of adults who 15 years ago as teenagers defeated an evil entity known as the Dark One, preventing him from destroying the world. The world returned to normal, but these heroes had to endure a newfound celebrity and deal with their own personal traumas. On the 10th anniversary of the Dark One's defeat, the heroes reunite, but a strange phenomenon occurs, forcing them into a parallel universe where the Dark One might still be out to fulfill his mission. So, you guys, the very last sentence of that synopsis, I mentioned that this book deals with alternate universes, parallel dimensions, or whatever. Is that a spoiler? I'm not really quite sure, you guys, when it comes to this book. I'm sorry if that is a spoiler. I feel like it is a plot element of this book that you kind of need to know, because I wish it was something I had known, because nowhere on the flap here does it mention anything about parallel dimensions, alternate universes, whatever. And that's kind of a big deal for me, and I wish I had known that heading into this book, because the idea of a parallel dimension is actually the one plot element of this entire book that ended up frustrating me and disappointing me. And so I do really feel the need to express that and say that, hey, there's alternate universes or parallel dimensions, whatever. That's a thing that goes on in this book. I really feel like that is something readers kind of need to know, to be quite honest. So I'm sorry if that is a spoiler, if you guys happen to consider that a spoiler, but that was actually a big deal for me because, like I said, I was like, wait, what? I got to that point in the book and I was like, nope, that's not really what I signed up for when I picked up this book. So yeah, let me get into my thoughts and feelings with Chosen Ones by Veronica Roth, you guys. I just wanted to get that out of the way with the parallel dimension thing. I wanted to just get that out there. So what did I initially really like about this book? The plot synopsis, what you're given here on the inside flap, that is what really drew me into this book initially. I was really intrigued by the idea that a group of adults who 15 years ago, when they would have been teenagers, that 15 years ago that they were all chosen by prophecy to defeat this evil entity known as the Dark One. And that really intrigued me, and for the first probably 25% of this novel, I was really loving it. I love the idea of this aftermath of a sort of apocalypse, if you will. Because I've read a lot of books, especially young adult, for instance, because you tend to see this the most in young adult in recent years, especially with something like The Hunger Games, for instance, or even Harry Potter. That you have a group of teenagers who become heroes over the course of a book or a series, and the teenagers have to defeat some sort of entity, you know, or person. Like in Harry Potter, Harry, Ron, and Hermione have to defeat Lord Voldemort. In the Hunger Games, Katniss has to, you know, overcome the system, you know, overcome the actual physical Hunger Games and eventually defeat President Snow, you know what I mean? And then, yeah, even in the Divergent series, I'm not totally caught up on the Divergent series, but I have seen the movies, for instance. And yeah, I mean, they have to defeat whatever they're defeated in that, you know? So, you always get the teenagers, you get your heroes, you get what it is they need to fight against, so they can have their happily ever after, essentially, at the end of the book. But what you don't get with books like that, you don't really get the aftermath. You don't see what their lives are like, what what a war has done to these characters. You know what I mean? And that's what this book is exploring, and it's exploring these characters who were teenagers 15 years ago, but yeah, now they are full-grown adults. They're trying to function in their daily lives, and they have a sort of celebrity that they don't necessarily really want. And on top of that, they're dealing with their personal demons, their personal traumas. You have a character who's very depressive and suicidal. You have a character who's very standoffish and doesn't want to just deal with any of this and would rather be kind of a loner. You have a character who was the leader of the group, and he's kind of facing the whole thing of, well, I was the leader, people, you know, died under my watch, and I have to cope with that. And then you have a character who, that she has her own personal demons and traumas, but she focuses on kind of the celebrity aspect, and she uses social media as kind of this coping mechanism, you know? So yeah, the five heroes, the five chosen ones, they all struggle. They have their issues and traumas. And they're all dealing with the aftermath of what happened 15 years ago. They're all dealing with it in vastly different ways. So that's what intrigued me. I liked the idea of this aftermath scenario, following these adults and how they're trying to function and live, and that they're really messed up human beings because of what happened, what was forced upon them essentially when they were teenagers. And it's just a really intriguing concept. So, as I mentioned, the first 25% of this novel I was thoroughly enjoying. I was hooked, I was engaged, I was just really curious and interested to see where things would go, and, you know, kind of what was going to bring all these characters back together. And I was really digging the characters as well. I was really loving all of the characters, even our main character, Sloane. Sloane is, like I said, she's pretty much the main character of this book, whose point of view you're going through. Sloane, oh man, she's the one that I was mentioning. She has a bit of a standoffish behavior. She tends to kind of want to be a loner. She doesn't care for any of this celebrity that being a chosen one has given her. Yeah, she's struggling with personal trauma, PTSD, blah blah blah, all that horrible stuff. And yeah, I really liked her as a character. She's not perfect, she's flawed, and that's what makes her relatable in this book, why you even like her, I think. And what's interesting, especially with the first 25% of this novel, Veronica Roth just really dives headfirst into the world building of this. You're not really given too much world building. You're kind of thrown into the lives of these characters, kind of in the middle of things, and you really have to read into the context. You got to really read into the dialogue. Read into people's behaviors. You got to read into a lot of things to kind of understand what did happen 15 years ago, the chain of events that happened, the rise of the Dark One, how they defeated the Dark One exactly. You really got to read into stuff. And something I did really appreciate what Veronica Roth did, kind of in between every chapter, she would use the she would have the use of things like audio recordings, newspaper clippings, things from journals. She would have a lot of things like that, that would talk about something that happened, would talk about how each of the chosen ones was chosen, you know, talk about their behaviors and characteristics. In between every chapter was little things like that would clue you into what happened 15 years ago, instead of sitting there just telling you about it. You know, instead of the characters just telling you about things that happen, Veronica Roth really uses, you know, audio recordings or newspaper clippings or whatever it would be, government files, for instance. She uses that sort of stuff to kind of tell the backstory which I think is easier to follow and to understand, like I said, rather than the characters just sitting there telling you stuff and it not feeling natural to the flow of what's going on, I suppose. So let's get into where the book just kind of fell apart for me personally, where I started not enjoying it as much. Which other people may like this aspect of the book. I don't know. But yeah, where the book kind of fell apart for me, and what I just was not expecting, it's after the first 25% of this novel. There's an event that happens, the chosen ones are kind of with each other, something strange and weird happens, and all of a sudden the characters are taken into this parallel dimension. It looks like their world, but things are a little different. Events have transpired a little differently, and there's like a different version of the Dark One still running around in this parallel dimension. So I just was not digging this, you guys. Like I said, I wish the plot synopsis had maybe specify that a little bit more, that it was going to deal with parallel dimensions, because I just didn't care for that, to be quite honest. I was much more engaged with discovering this world and discovering these characters and discovering, you know, their demons and their traumas, and you know, like the aftermath of war, essentially. That's what I was hoping this book would dig into, and instead it heads into this parallel dimension. Right as the book is getting very good, you're dumped into this parallel universe, and the chosen ones have to deal with this whole new thing. It's like they, as teenagers, they won, they saved the day, and now they gotta do it all over again, and they don't want to do that, obviously. So I just have very complicated feelings about where the book went. So then you're given a whole new set of world building. You know, Veronica Roth, the first 25% of the novel, she was giving you a certain set of world building, and then you're abruptly just given a whole brand new set of world building, and that's all this book felt like. I realized that I was approaching the end of this book, and I was like, wait a minute, I still feel like I'm at the beginning of the book. I feel like I've not even got to anything like in the middle, and I feel like I'm not even at the end. This whole book just felt like a beginning from start to finish, and that was just really upsetting and distracting. That I just really felt like this book ultimately didn't go anywhere, and it definitely didn't go the way I was wanting it to go. Add on top of this, this book is apparently the first in I think a trilogy, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm not going to spoil how this book ends, but the way this book ends, it felt concluded to me. It didn't have a cliffhanger, it didn't feel abrupt. I felt like it had kind of a nice little natural conclusion, that even though I had my frustrations with the book, I was still more or less kind of satisfied with the ending. And yeah, I don't know if I want to continue reading this series. It's like part of me wants to, but part of me is like, is it just going to be more of the same of what I got in this, that I'm going to be frustrated and disappointed, you know? Another issue I was having with this book is that a big deal was being made that this was Veronica Roth writing an adult novel, because the Divergent series that she had previously written was a young adult series. I concluded this book, and I was still left under the assumption like, hey, this read more like a young adult book to me than an adult book. And I don't know. It's hard to define what is adult. You know, what exactly is an adult book? What makes it an adult book compared to young adult? I think that's kind of a hard question to answer, because I think people are going to have different perspectives on that. But yeah, to me, I was definitely just thinking this just felt like a young adult book to me. These characters are supposed to be like about 28, 29, 30. They kind of range right in there, for anywhere from 28 to 30. And they didn't behave like that to me. They felt like teenagers. And a lot of stuff going on in this book just felt like young adult tropes. Some of the characters felt like what you would see in a young adult novel. So it was just a very conflicting book. It's like the book wanted to be adult, but it wasn't. And yeah, Veronica Roth, characters were having sex, characters were cursing, characters were under pretty rough predicaments and whatnot, but those things don't make a book an adult book. You know, sex and cursing doesn't make it automatically an adult book, in my opinion. I've seen young adult books do that. I've seen plenty of young adult books have sex and cursing and whatnot. But yeah, it's like it's like Veronica Roth thought, oh, if I have a sex scene, if I have profanity, that's gonna make this an adult book. But no, it's not. This is still very much, in my opinion, a young adult book to me, not an adult book. So yeah, overall, in conclusion, you guys, if this was an essay, I'm very split with this book. I think for the most part I was more disappointed, and I think I have more negatives. Overall, it was fine. Once I got past my initial disappointment and frustrations, I mean, I tried my best to get into it. I did really enjoy the new set of characters that were introduced in that next half of the book. And I mean, it was still interesting for what it was, but yeah, it just went in a direction I wasn't expecting. So yeah, a lot of my problems were just the world building, kind of too much going on in some ways, you know, hopping around with the dimensions or whatever. But yeah, how did you guys feel? I'm very curious how you guys felt about this book, because I'm definitely very conflicted. So you guys, that is it for my review of Chosen Ones by Veronica Roth. In the comments below, have you guys read this book? Do you plan on reading it? And I'm definitely curious your opinions about it. So that's it for this review. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye guys.